All right, welcome back to another one of the series. Today we want to look at specifically how to configure one of these devices. Okay. So you want to get wireless at home. You're not sure what to do. You don't want to be hiring the expensive technicians to come in and do the installation for you. Good news is that setting up your Wi-Fi is pretty easy. Some people fear it because they don't understand a little bit of networking. There is no need for all that. The tutorials that are online or the tutorial that I'm doing right now will show you how to go about setting up one of these access point, or these are considered more or less a wireless router. So you can buy these at most of the computer stores. In Belize here, you can get it at Full Tech, Psychotronics, in one of those places in Belize City, or at your nearest computer store in your particular area. So what you go in, what you do is that you go in and you ask for a wireless access point, or in this case, we're asking for a wireless router because this serves the purpose of distributing that Wi-Fi signal and also act as a router in terms of changing the different IP addresses that you get from your internet service provider. This particular brand is a Linksys E1200. It's on the cheaper end, so I know that for many households, this would be something that is affordable and it's sort of reliable, right? Not like the expensive enterprise one that I'm sure are 100% reliable, but these are pretty reliable if you're sharing your network or sharing your internet connection with about 5 or 6 computers, right? So let's jump into the configuration, show you how to log into it and how to get it configured. So once we have our router plugged in to our network port or Ethernet port, the next thing then is to access that device by putting in the default IP addresses that comes with it. To do that, first of all, I want to find out what IP address it's sending, and so I will right click here on the network, open network and connection settings. I'll go to status. Where am I? So Ethernet, sorry. Then status. And notice here it shows me the IP address that I'm working with. So by default, this is giving off an IP address at 192.168.1 that some other number. I'm getting 108 here, and so the access to this device then I know would be 192.168.1.1. So I'll open up my browser, whatever browser you're using, and you'll type in that address. So 192.168.1.1, and it takes me direct to the welcome screen for the E1200 series. Now, this normally comes with a CD that you can use for the installation. The CD makes it easier. Sometimes it makes it even more confusing. So I like to just log direct into the device and make the configuration changes myself. But if you have the CD and you find it easier to use, give it a try, see how it works for you. So I'll click here to continue to an open and unsecure network. Although this here is not recommended because it's giving me direct access to the device itself. Agree to that. And it's asking me for a username and password now. Username for these by default is admin, and by default the password should be admin. Well, I won't have it saved that. So we're changing the router. Don't show me this again. I'm okay with that, right? Alright. This is where it starts to get complex and people normally will get scared and don't know what to do. The idea is that you want to be able to bring in that internet connection or share that internet connection from your internet service provider, meaning that that single wire that they bring into your home or that they are providing off their modem, you can then plug into the back of this device into this port labeled as internet, and that normally is labeled with another color. So in this case, this one is yellow, and then your distribution to other computers, if you have them hardwired in, is on the blue section labeled 1 through 4 as the Ethernet ports. Apart from that, you have this device giving off a signal, giving off a wireless signal, which we refer to as Wi-Fi. And so that will also be distributing then those set of numbers that you want for your particular network. So if you keep that in mind, this one is your wide area connection or your internet connection, and then the other distribution happens within your network, can be both wired and wireless. Alright, so one of our first steps is that we want our internet connection type. If your internet service provider is providing you with an IP address, you would use a static IP address. In most cases, they are DHCP, and so you don't have to worry about that portion. And so I'll just leave it as DHCP, or Dynamic Host Control Protocol, which means that they are automatically assigning an IP address to your particular device. Your IP address normally comes as 1.1. That is okay for us. Again, the advanced part of this is that if your network, your present network from your internet service provider, and I showed you just now how to check what the IP address is, if your present internet service provider provides you with a number like 192.168.1.1, then it's recommended that you would change this to something else. So you might change it to 192.168.4.1 or 5.1, something out farther from the 1.1, which is normally the default for most devices. And so there are cases when it causes a little bit of conflict. So 1.1 is okay for me. My router name, I'll call this my home router, and you can put whatever name you want in there. Your DHCP server means that it will assign a number to each device within your network. So if you have a phone or a phone picking up from the Wi-Fi, that phone will be assigned a number. That particular number might be, for example, 192.168.1.2. You have a laptop that you're also attaching to this access point. That device might have 192.168.1.3 and so forth. And so it goes all the way up to 254. So we can have then, I can say that I want a maximum number of users to be 50. And so you notice that the IP range it uses is 192.168.1.100 to 192.168.1.149, and we can increase these if we want to. Static DNS, if normally DNS is forwarded through, but we can assign DNS. In our case, let's just put in a DNS that we know. So we'll put in Google's DNS. So that is 8.8.8.8. And of course, if your internet service provider provides you with a DNS, that is the one you want to use. So normally, they would give you a DNS number that you can use. In this case, you could leave it as is or put in 8.8.8 to be safe. Alright. Once we have those, you set your time zone, whatever it is, to where your location is, and save setting. So I've saved setting. I'm complete with the first page. Now I want to go to my wireless. So for your wireless, this is where you get to choose what wireless name you want shown on your devices. The devices or the name that you want the users or your clients to see as a part of the wireless naming scheme. So I want to set this to manual, and you'll notice that that changes. So now my network mode, I can specify what I want. If you are certain that your devices and your network uses wireless N, which are the faster internet connections available or the faster connections available to the devices, then you can choose wireless N only, wireless B only, or wireless G only, depending on what you're using. These are just different protocols or different standards that are used by the wireless industry. In our case, we're going to leave this one as mixed, so it'll accept majority of those signals, and I will name my network name or SSID as something, right? So in this case, I'm calling mine my Wi-Fi, and of course this name can vary based on what you want, right, for your particular needs. Channel width. There are cases where I have it as auto, so 20 megahertz and 40 megahertz. 40 megahertz provide you a little bit more speed, and again, it has to do more compatibility of devices, so I leave it as auto. If you're using older devices, you might want to leave it as 20 megahertz though. Channel. This one is important when you think about channels, based on how much people are within your location who have Wi-Fi devices. You might want to specify a channel in cases where there's a congestion of Wi-Fi devices, or you have more than one wireless device in a particular building. So say you live in an apartment complex, and your neighbor also has a Wi-Fi device there, and or several neighbors have Wi-Fi devices in the area, then you would want to specify a channel that is being used. And of course, there are things, or there are different tools that can be used to check which channel is available in your area. You can leave it as auto and see if it works for you. Majority of the time, most of the time, the auto works. There are small segments of time when you'll have interference from other devices. The area where I live is not too congested, so I leave it as auto. If I wanted to, I could have placed it as one of the different channel. And your device will still attach to it. It's not like you have to remember the channel in order for your device to attach, right? So auto, that is broadcast. I'll save. Security disable. Want to continue? Wait, all right, let's do the security one time. So wireless security. Something went wrong. All right, so wireless security, a security mode that you're using, and this is used to lock off your signal so that other people can't get in to your Wi-Fi device or to your wireless signal. So it's disabled right now. We can use the different security measures available. Um, Radius looks at having some external device authenticate, or some external computer authenticate the users on the network. A WEP is one of the oldest security in terms of Wi-Fi security. WPA Enterprise, Enterprise 2, these are all great. I'll put it as WPA 2, WPA mixed mode. Right? Passphrase is what you want the clients to type in whenever they're using your particular Wi-Fi, whenever they see your particular Wi-Fi signal, and you want them to pick it up. So I'll say my passphrase here is password for this particular case, and save. These type of routers also bring something called guest access, where you can allow guests to access your devices. If you have a business running and you want that your company also offers guest access internet, and what this does is that it places them on another virtual network where they're not able to access your internal resources, but you can still grant them access to the internet resources or have them access the internet. Um, in our case, we're leaving this as no. We could have placed it on, to turn it on, placed it to some other SSID name, and then this device will be giving out two different names um, from the single device that could be accessed. We could do the wireless MAC filter. What this means is that you can, by adding in something called a MAC address, each device comes with a MAC address added to it. So you can specify the address from that particular device and say that I want that device to access my network, or I want to deny access of that device from my network. Of course, for real large network, this becomes very tedious. If you're doing it for a home network, I can see where it would be something that you want to do, because it restricts then the people who can add in or who can get into your particular network. But it is a lot of work for large enterprise areas. So if you're doing this for large buildings, it would be something practical. I would recommend that you do some sort of radio server install, or some other sort of authentication, maybe using some captive portal or something like that. All right. Security. This is okay. Your firewall by default, if you're configuring this for home, you wouldn't want to touch anything in the firewall as yet. And this tutorial is particularly aimed towards the home users. Um, Access policy, these we don't need to touch. And then our administration. Now, this one is important simply because we want to change the password that we use to get into the router. So if you remember earlier, we used the password, username was admin, password was admin. It's always a good idea to change that so that anybody else who is on your network won't have access to your router and therefore won't be able to change anything, any setting that you might have wanted to have placed in. So router password, we'll change that. We'll put it as, let's put it as password and password. Local management, yes, we're managing it via our local management. You could also specify remote management if you have a public IP address that you want to place in. And you could also do port forwarding for something like this. All right, so save settings. I'll say no and continue. Good. So that's pretty much it. You have successfully configured your access point or your wireless router to distribute internet within your particular area. So we went through and we configured the wide area network or the internet connection coming in, and we left it as DHCP or Dynamic Host Control Protocol, which means that it automatically will get that number from the internet service provider if they did not provide you with a public IP address that you can use or a single IP address that you should use. We also configured the internal network by changing our IP address, and we specified that this one we're working with a particular range. And when you think about IP addresses, think about it like a street address or a home address where you can specify a particular location using a number. So we left it as 1.1. We left the default as 50 users. And again, this is for households of 50 users. This is a lot, right? We also went ahead and saved that setting and changed our wireless SSID that we want showing. We specified our wireless security feature by placing in a password, so the persons using your Wi-Fi or using your wireless would have to log in using a password. And then we also changed the password for the device for our own security so that anybody on our network won't have access to our router and all of those settings. So again, this is just a basic configuration for your home access point. I hope this helps so you don't have to be hiring anybody to get that done for you. And of course, if you're looking for this type of assistance within Southern Belize, feel free to hit me up. My website is backplay.com. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. Hit that notification bell whenever, so that you can get notification whenever I push out new videos. The site again is aimed at a little bit of traveling, a little bit of IT work, a little bit of DIY, right? So that we can keep the education system or keep the education process going on. So that's it for today, guys. Have fun, enjoy the rest of your day, and go geek yourself.